G'day folks, just down here at work. I've got to work on getting this thing out. We just bought some new machinery and I bought this one off them. Well, with a bit of luck I'll get it. Got a nice Eaton DRO on it. Coolant pump, stand, collet set. I'm still negotiating on price, but it'll work out. A couple $100. It's worn. Old Taiwanese thing, the ways need some attention, but any mill's better than none. Alright, well, as you see by the previous part of the video, I've got to make room for a milling machine soon. It's coming in on the 20th of next month, roughly. Well, that's when the new machinery comes in anyway. It's not new, but the local tooling shop shut down and we're buying some of their old machines, which are actually quite good. Now, the big mill that's coming in is a Bridgeport clone. It's made by King Rich, Taiwan. Probably one of the finest Taiwanese mills you ever get. It's a really nice machine. We've already got one at the moment and it's just perfect. You can do fantastic tool making work on it. It's not a toy, not like the mill drill that I'm getting, which is probably one of the better ones because it's got a dovetailed column. The ones with the round column where the head just clamps on and swivels, well, as soon as you start moving that head around, or if you have to change your head height, you lose all your coordinates. They're just crap. Whereas this one you get a relative accuracy. You can wind the head up and still retain your 0 point on the table. So I'm thinking I'll put it where the copier bench is, move that back, maybe swap the International engine for something a bit smaller. That's a sort of a lend-lease thing. I can pay it off or swap it over. I haven't paid anything for it yet. It doesn't owe me anything, so I might swap it for something different. I'll move the copier bench back, piss this upright off and put it here. Obviously a little pedestal drill can go to a good home. That other piece of junk over there can go in the bin. It's got a bent spindle, so it's only good for roughly slugging big holes in things. And just tidy everything else up. I also want to sell that bandsaw too. It owes me $350, nearly $400, so I'll be happy to get $400 for it. And other things, well, yeah, it's just tidy up. I'm going to rearrange my steel shelving a bit more so that some of these other engines can go on it. As you can see, there's just engines everywhere now. That one's not a bad runner, a bit clagged up in the carby. That one's really worn out, but still fixable. Yeah, too many engines. Big engine. I'll take the gearbox off that one and move it back a bit. Yeah, a lot of other little things coming up. Right now I've just got Villiers engines and things on the shelves. Tidy up went pretty well last time I did it. So I've reinforced all these shelves and what how nice and sticky this paint is. Not very thin. You can thin it down if you want to spray it, but when it comes to machinery and stuff like that, you want a nice high build. I used electrolysis on 90% of this lathe. I think the only thing I couldn't fit in the tank was the bed, and I used Mr. Muscle on that. But to get this nice smooth finish I only used I think 2 or 3 coats on it, and it's come out really nice. Like some of these castings were rough as guts, particularly the headstock. You can still see markings. It's clearly a cast item, but yeah, it's still very nice. I'm just missing a little cover which fits over the gear train. Never had it when I got it, so I've been trying to source one. Because all this should be enclosed and this drive should be underneath. It's an underdrive benchtop lathe. But because I temporarily set it up about 2 years ago, just to see how well it worked, I've set the drive up over the top with some wooden blocks, and it's been like that ever since. So that's got to be set up on its bench, which is the big hardwood one behind there. One day. Although it's in an ideal spot here, it's a really nice spot for it, but there's no room for underdrive because this shelf is part of the support for this bench. So instead of cutting a hole in it, I just left it as it was. Okay, well I've got the poles all painted. Look a nice green. It's going to colour code nicely with the housing. These have been double dipped in lacquer, and I sent them off to a friend's electric motor shop, and he put them under a vacuum chamber. I wish I could have done a video on the whole process, but I was working at the time. Yeah, they've been double dipped and vacuum impregnated, then baked. So it's about the best thing we can do for these poles at the moment. I mean, I don't have a couple of grand to rewind the whole thing, but it was working when it came out of service, and despite the weather effects, they all seem to be pretty good. They all ohmed alright, and they passed a megameter test. So if it passes an insulation test on a megameter, well, that's a good sign. Unfortunately, we don't have a machine to test the rotor. I can't remember what you call them, a buzzer or exciter or something like that. But we don't have one big enough to test the rotor, so that's just got to be cleaned up. I've got a base coat on there at the moment after 2 coats of lacquer. I'm going to rub these steel bits back afterwards, but apart from that, I'm going to probably paint the core grey. And I'm a bit undecided on the white. As one user suggested, it's going to get dirty very quick. So maybe I'll just go machinery grey. Hell, I've got heaps of it. That's the white. It's a nice high chem epoxy enamel. But I also got tons of this stuff, which is the same as what I used on the lathe, the South Bend. And that came out quite nice. It's a bit darker than it shows up on the camera, but it's a nice finish. I've got 1.5 cans of this stuff left. It's called Pewter N63. So that's that. I'm going to let this paint dry overnight, and we'll see how we go on the weekend. I might put another coat on each night of this week. I'll put another coat on it and just see how it turns out. I'm going to get a brush and some more Brunswick green and just do the ends of these windings. I want a bit of green on the rotor as well. Oh, I must say that looks pretty neat at the moment. Still needs another finish coat on the inner coating, but it's come out really nice. This paint holds up well now that it's fully cured. It's proper engine enamel, so it's designed for high temps and solvents and things, so just paint the hell out of it and then give everything a wipe off with a rag. Bit of solvent on it. Might get in there though. Just try and take up those dark patches. You've got to look at what will be seen when you're looking at the outside of the generator, so there's a few more bits and pieces to cover, but everything else looks just fine. Thanks for watching.